Hi everyone. I wanted to introduce you all to Scratch and show you how to create your own Scratch teacher's account. A teacher's account in Scratch is going to be really useful before you start using this with students. So first let me introduce you to Scratch itself, and then we'll go on to the teacher account options here. Scratch is a block coding program for people who are just learning to code. Learning to code generally is has a very high cognitive load because not only are you learning the concepts of coding, the logical concepts of how code works, you're also having to learn language syntax at the same time. And that can be exceptionally difficult. I've seen a lot of students struggle and it's been very hard for them to figure out, oh no, I'm getting the actual syntax part and it's the concepts I'm struggling with, or I get the concepts but it's the syntax that's really driving me bonkers. So Scratch allows you to sort of tease those two things apart, and especially for kids, makes it easy for them to get comfortable with the concepts of coding before they have to grapple with any of the language side of it. It's also just plain fun. It was clearly designed for children, but I really enjoy using it myself, and I've known a lot of adults who had a great time with it as well. There's a lot of fun different things that you can do with it, and I'm going to be including some activities in the course to help you all learn different concepts as a player rather than a creator. And so I'm hoping that you'll see that there's a lot of fun things you can do with it, even beyond teaching your students to code. So here we are on the main page, and you can see there's a join button and a join Scratch button. That's for a regular account, so we're gonna skip that for right now. We're gonna click here on this button that says for educators. And I'm not going to go into this stuff in any great depth, but I want to show you just that there are a ton of resources here that you can use when you are ready to start incorporating Scratch in the classroom. So if you can see the latest, learn more about how other teachers are using Scratch in the classroom. There's a ton of resources down here for you guys, including these coding cards. Now, you can download these on Amazon. I use them constantly, and they're extremely helpful. So what you have is this enormous deck, and each one of these color-coded sections is a different project. And so even if you're not ready to really incorporate it into a lesson plan yet, if you give your students time to work on fun activities, you can separate those cards into different projects and let students work in Scratch independently. It actually works very well in my experience. You can also print these out yourself. If you possibly can, I suggest printing them out in color though, because as you'll notice when we get into Scratch more, the blocks are color coded. And so being able to see the colors on the page, that's really helpful for students and adults when trying to figure out how to build their Scratch projects. But there's also tutorials here that you can use. There's different ideas and resources from the Scratch team. They have educator guides and creative computing guides as well to help you figure out, how do I incorporate this into other things? So as much as I'm trying to address that in my mini course, there's always just tons of resources out there beyond what I'm able to cover in the short amount of time. There's also opportunities for you to connect with other teachers here, and I think this is really the number one thing that will make it that will make you successful when you start teaching this to students. So you can go into the Facebook group, you can do instructor meetups with other teachers, and and really learn from other people, from their experiences, from things that they've done in the classroom themselves. I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys that educators are some of the most, giving and creative people out there. And I've seen hundreds and hundreds of people in this site helping other teachers make their way through the new normal of teaching children to code. So I definitely encourage you to make use of the resources that are in here. So let's go back up here to the top of the page. I'm going to show you right now how to start a teacher account. The teacher account will give you a lot of options in terms of adding students in, keeping an eye on what their activities are, and it'll make it so that you're able to reset their passwords for them. So just keep in mind that you'll have a lot more options with a teacher's account than you would if you just started a regular account, especially if you're teaching children under the age of about 14. So let's go right into it. I'm going to click here on teacher accounts. You can click on the teacher account fact page here, frequently asked questions page, if you want more information about teachers' accounts. There's probably things in teachers' accounts that I'm not even aware of because, I mainly teach this in enrichment capacities. So that might be useful information for you to check out. For right now, I'm just going to click on request account. And so now you're going to want to pick a username. Don't use your real name. Don't use your school name. Use something that cannot easily be tied to you, to your school, or to your students. It's always a good idea to assume that anything on the internet, including your usernames, could be used to locate you. I always want to encourage people to exercise caution. So I'm going to try... I actually have a Scratch game that's got a crab on the moon, like trying to catch stars. So that's where that idea came from. And then I'm going to put in a password here. So again, pick something that can't be tied back to you. Like, I don't think anybody's going to see Interstellar Crab and think of me, at least prior to making this video, of course. So then I'm going to click next step. And then you can put in your personal information. This will not be shared on Scratch. It's, again, to make sure that you're actually an adult and, to understand for MIT and their continual development of Scratch, like who is actually using their platform. So I'll get close to my birthday. Yeah, see, sorry teachers, must be at least 16 years old. So that's good information to have. I'm going to be nice and say 1985. You can select your gender, and of course there is a place here where you can enter your gender if you do not identify as male or female. And then you're going to select a country. Again, this helps MIT understand who's using their product. It is free, of course, so it's a product that they make available to literally everyone who can get it with internet access, but it helps them to understand where is it being used, who are we serving. So I'm going to click next step. And this is where it's going to ask for your first and last name. I'm going to go ahead and put... I'm not creating a real account here, so it's totally fine for me to pick my favorite literary characters because I'm not gonna actually submit this. Put in your first and last name. Again, this is nothing that's going to be displayed publicly. This is for Scratch and Scratch alone. And then I'll click next step. The other thing I'll say before we move on from here, they will use your real name to verify that you should have a teacher's account. So I will just say keep that in mind. You definitely want to give them your real name, even though I have entered a pseudonym. Again, it's only because I'm not actually going to submit this. So I'm going to go ahead and click next step. And then your phone number. This, again, should be a real phone number. You can give them the phone number that is associated with the school. If the pandemic is going on and you're not able to access that phone, make sure that they're actually able to contact you so that you can get your account. So again, this is one of those ways that they will try to get a hold of you. I apologize for my cat complaining in the background. She wants to be cuddled. I promise I will not neglect her for long. They will, this is one of the things that they're going to use to try and verify that you are a teacher who should have a teacher's account. So make sure this is a number where you can actually be reached. And then click yes, the Scratch team may call me to verify my teacher account if needed. And then go ahead and go on to the next step. And now you're going to enter information about your organization. So this will be the school that you work for or the nonprofit where you teach. And so go ahead and put that information in here. So as you can see, like children, my cat does not take no for an answer. This is Jillybean. So I have entered information regarding UAlbany. That is where I am a student. And but you'll want to enter your school's name and your role there. And then you can select the type of organization. So I'm going to say college, university. And I'm going to click after school program because I do commonly teach enrichment programs. And then you can put the address for the organization. So I went ahead and put the remote ed website that I've worked on with faculty and other students from UAlbany. You would definitely want to put in the website for the school where you teach. Again, these are all things that MIT will use to evaluate whether or not you should have a teacher account. So make sure to include as much information as you can, and then go ahead and click next step. And this is where you'll want to enter the address for the school where you work. Or, if you work for a nonprofit, you'd want to put their address in there. Again, this is all verification stuff. These are things that you won't be asked for with a regular Scratch account. But in order to give you a teacher's account, they need more information from you. So I've gone ahead and I've entered an address here. I'm going to go ahead and click on next step. In this page, you can tell Scratch exactly how you plan to use Scratch. So you might talk about using it in the classroom with your students. You might talk about, learning how to program yourself. You could talk about like enrichment programs or, however you're planning to use Scratch. Just explain it in the box here. You have 300 characters, so I'm just going to say I will. It doesn't need to be a long paragraph. You don't need to provide a huge amount of detail. Again, this is just to help them understand how Scratch is being used so that when they think about ways to improve it or develop it in the future, they've got more information about how everyone is using it. Go ahead and click on next step. And this is where you're going to put in your email address. This should be the email address that is associated with your teaching position. So go ahead and you'll want to type it in the top box, type it in again, exactly the same in the second box. I would encourage you to check the box here to get updates on how to use Scratch in an educational setting. The updates are useful. There's a lot of fun materials and ideas in there, and that way you're kept up to date on any changes that are coming in Scratch. This is, for example, the third version of Scratch, so they have made some different changes that have looked very different on the screen. It's always good to know when that sort of thing is coming, and that way, you can be aware, you can let your students know changes are coming, again, you're going to find curriculum ideas, you're going to find project ideas. There's a lot of cool things that you will get if you check that box, and then you will click next step. I'm not actually going to create a new teacher's account because I already have one, and I don't want to, force somebody to try and re-verify me again. But once you have put your information in, click next step. It usually takes at least a couple of days. It might take more time now. The more popular coding activities are getting, and especially with remote instruction, the more people tend to ask for things like this. So just remember, it might take a week, maybe even longer, to get your account verified. So you'll definitely, as much as possible, want to do this well in advance of when you plan to use it. You will be able to use a Scratch account immediately. It just won't actually be an instructor's account until they verify that you are an instructor. So I'm going to go ahead and click the Scratch icon here, and this is going to take me back to the home page. I don't want to save a password because I didn't actually create that account. So now I have logged into my teacher account. I want to show you some of the options that you have. Blurring parts of my screen because it does have, screen names from different students that I have taught, so I am protecting their privacy. And again, you can get to those educator resources right from this page by clicking the educator resources button. There's also that teacher account frequently asked questions page, so if you want to get more information, you can do that there. I'm going to click on my classes. You'll have a button just like that. And I've got a big old list of different classes that I've taught, which again, I am going to obscure so that I protect my former students. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new class, and I'm going to call this one, I'm going to name this one after my mini course. You can put a course description in there. The other thing I suggest, this will help you differentiate between different classes in the future. I'm going to add spring 2020. Adding information like that, if you use this for 5 years, you could have dozens and dozens of different Scratch courses in here. So make it easy on yourself, name them descriptively, because the description here does not actually show up on the list page. So you'll make your lives a lot easier by keeping as much information as possible in the class name. I'm going to go ahead and click Add Class. Here is my new class that I have added. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, you can put more information in here, but I want to show you how to add your students in. There's two different ways to add students. So the easiest way is, it is more time consuming, but it's very easy, would be to click the New Student button. And then they're going to pick a username, or you can pick one for them. But remember, and Scratch will remind you about this a lot, usernames should not reveal any identifying information about your students. Again, this is the internet. Anything you put out there will be visible to other people, and unfortunately, some of those people may have, bad intent. What I always tell students when they're picking their usernames is to think about their hobbies, or, their favorite characters from movies and books, or, their favorite color, favorite pet's name, those kind of things. And then you can sort of craft a name around that. A lot of people are going to say Iron Man, but Iron Man, I guarantee you, is already taken on Scratch. And so you want to try combinations. So maybe Purple Iron Man or Iron Man Albany. Probably don't want to use Albany though. You get the idea though. So you could say, Gymnastics Iron Man or Gymnastics Black Widow. I don't know why I'm stuck on a Marvel kick, but here we are. And then once you find a username that works, that is actually unique on the system, you can click here to verify that you understand that if this, if you make a name that has identifying information about the student, they will probably delete the account. So make sure that it's clearly fictitious, even if they're using, somebody else's name that sounds like a real name. Again, just be careful. And then you can click Add Student to add the student. And you could do that one by one for all of the students in the class. It's not too terribly time consuming, but if you've got a classroom full of 30 students, it can take a while. So there's this other, there are these other options here. If your students are old enough, you can click Student Sign Up link. And then what you're going to do is click here. I agree to remind my students not to use their real names. Very important. I cannot emphasize that enough. And then if you click Get Link, it's going to give you this URL. You can then take this URL and send it to your students, and they can sign up for their own Scratch accounts. And again, they won't need to enter an email address. They won't need to, enter any of the other information. So it is safer for them. Or you can upload a CSV. There's information here if you want to learn more about CSVs. Basically, it means comma separated values. It's sort of the precursor to spreadsheets as we think about it. They look like this. So you can actually make this in Excel or in Google Sheets and save it as a CSV if you want to. So you're going to put the usernames in one column, and then in the next column you'd put taco password. You'd put the password for the students, basically. And you can actually download the example file. Let me see if I can show you what this looks like. So I'm on a Mac, and so of course this was opened in Numbers, which is Mac's version of Excel. And so here's the way it works. So you'd put, let's say we've got Purple Dragon Jubilee, and then I could leave the password there. I could change it to something else. I do want to see, I'm going to drag this open so you can see. So you can go through and say Harold the Cantankerous Owl. I'm not going to go through this because I think that, you might see exactly how strange I am, but you would put the usernames here in the left-hand column, and then you would enter passwords for the students in the right-hand column. So once you've filled in the file, make sure that you save it as a CSV file. And that's going to depend on what program you're using to do this. In Excel, it's very easy. You just go to File, Save As, make sure the file type is set to CSV to save it, and then go ahead and save it. And then what you can do is, I'm going to cancel this because I don't actually need this file. And then once you have your file saved, what you can do is come down here, click this, find your file, upload it. Again, they're going to make sure to tell you that if you have real names in here or any identifying information from your students, that they will delete those accounts. So you have to agree to that, and then you can upload that file that you just made. Probably the easiest way to do this is with that downloaded example, and then just using whatever spreadsheet editor you are comfortable with, and then upload that in there. If you are pretty handy with a spreadsheet, this is probably going to be a lot faster than the individual option, but again, you can always send that link out to your students in an email. So if you are communicating with them that way already, just send them the link and then they can sign up for the class as well. So I hope that this has been a useful video for you guys. Please let me know. I'm putting links to the forums on my website throughout this course so that I can keep an eye on the suggestions and the conversations that are happening. And that way, if you guys ever need me to update anything or make this course better, I can keep on doing that even after my time in this class is finished. So again, I hope that was useful. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you're enjoying Scratch. Thanks.